How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. Hope you're having a good day, and welcome to another Pokemon Go deep dive video. Today, we're going to take a look at a particular Pokemon that I believe is one of the best in the Great League right now. I'm of course talking about Pidgeot. There are plenty of reasons why this Pokemon is one you should consider using, especially with the most recent move shakeup. I'm going to be talking about all of this in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Okay, let's talk about Pidgeot. So, with the start of the most recent PvP season, we saw a lot of shakeups to the current list of moves. Some moves got buffed, others got nerfed, and a few moves were added to Pokemon which either improved or decreased their standings in the meta. Now, one of the moves that was buffed was the flying type move Wing Attack, and certain Pokemon that were irrelevant beforehand were suddenly near the top of the meta. These include Noctowl, Mantine, Gliscor, Pelipper, and of course, Pidgeot. Most of these Pokemon saw significant buffs as a result of this change. They deal incredible damage with this fast attack, and they have more wins against more Pokemon in a one-on-one matchup. But for today, I want to put a spotlight on one of these Pokemon, as it has granted me a ton of wins. Right, so let's go over Pidgeot's details. This Pokemon is a normal and flying type Pokemon. It is going to be weak against the three primary anti-flying types, which are Electric, Ice, and Rock. It does have a double resistance to Ghost and Ground type attacks, and regular resistances to Bug and Grass. While it may not have an extensive list of resistances, it is not weak to a whole lot of Pokemon either. Thus, Pidgeot could be a great Pokemon to use against most of the top meta picks. The fast attacks that Pidgeot can have include Air Slash and Steel Wing, and the legacy move Wing Attack, which you can only get with an elite fast TM. In terms of its charge attacks, Pidgeot can come with Feather Dance, Brave Bird, Hurricane, Aerial Ace, and Air Cutter, with the latter being a legacy move that requires an elite charge TM. Fortunately, you will not require an elite charge TM for the most optimum setup. The ideal charge attacks for Pidgeot are Feather Dance and Brave Bird. You will want to go with Feather Dance because it is spammable and debuffs the opponent's Pokemon, and Brave Bird is one of the hardest hitting nukes in the game. Now, in terms of Pidgeot's fast attack, you will obviously want to go with Wing Attack. This move received a significant buff recently, which propelled Pidgeot to near the top of the meta. This move generates a lot more energy compared to what it gave in previous seasons, and you can easily deal with plenty of Pokemon regardless if they are weak against it or not. Unfortunately, you will need to use an elite fast TM in order to get this move, but I would say it is well worth it. So yeah, this is the moveset that should make Pidgeot an absolute beast for the Great League. There is potential for this Pokemon to be a threat in the Premier Ultra League, but it is not going to be as high ranked compared to the Great League. If you were planning to use Pidgeot for the Ultra League, then it would use the same moveset. Now, Pidgeot is one of those Pokemon that is not too stats dependent. While it is always ideal to get as close as possible to the rank 1 IVs, it won't kill you to have one that is not exactly there. This is of course because Pidgeot's max CP is actually pretty close to the 1500 limit, so as long as you level it up and get close, you should be okay. However, if you are looking for those rank 1 IVs, they are going to be 0 attack, 14 defense, and 14 stamina. So yeah, these are all the details regarding this Pokemon, but what kind of team should you build around it? Well, let's take a look at its page on pvpoke.com. You can see that Pidgeot's biggest strength is as a lead, which is definitely true. I've alternated between Pidgeot and another really good lead Pokemon, which is Galarian Stunfisk, and I've had really good results. You will just want to watch out for anti-flying leads at that point, because Pidgeot does get hard countered by some common leads like Registeel and Galarian Stunfisk. You will, however, completely dominate most other Pokemon like Trevenant, Swampert, and Medicham. The best team that I've tried with Pidgeot is Galarian Stunfisk and Azumarill. PvPoke.com's team overview score gives it an A in terms of coverage, an A with bulk, a B with safety, and a B with consistency. I honestly cannot disagree with this score. This team has insane type coverage and incredible bulk. It has answers to most teams out there, and it shreds through some of the cheese strategies that you often see, like charm teams and double grass teams. If you look at the meta scorecard for this team, you can see that it has answers to pretty much every Pokemon that is currently at the top of the meta. Pokemon like Swampert, Medicham, and Scrafty get countered by Pidgeot, while getting coverage against hard counters like Registeel and Bastiodon with Galarian Stunfisk. I also included Azumarill with Play Rough and Ice Beam to round out this team. Since there are plenty of flying types, fairy types, and dark types being used, Azumarill is my coverage against that. However, this team isn't perfect, and there are a few weaknesses that can be exploited. So what are Pokemon that I struggle against with this team? Well, I found that this team is pretty weak against trainers who run Lantern. It's one particular Pokemon that hard counters this team. You might get lucky against it with some good shield baiting, but there is a vulnerability to that Pokemon. One adjustment you can make is switching Pidgeot and Stunfisk in terms of the lead. If you lead with Pidgeot and save Stunfisk as a response to Lantern, you could deal with it much easier. But yeah, Pidgeot is still really good right now. Regardless of all of the counters that exists in the meta, you really can't go wrong trying out this Pokemon. Of course, there may be better options out there depending on what you are looking for. The meta is certainly dominated by flying-type Pokemon right now, and there are plenty of good options besides Pidgeot. One alternative you can use is Noctowl, which is nearly identical in terms of typing and stats. The key difference is, of course, type coverage, as Noctowl has a much more diverse moveset compared to Pidgeot. Instead of Feather Dance and Brave Bird, Noctowl would run with Sky Attack and Shadow Ball, which could be a lot more useful depending on your team. However, my personal preference is Feather Dance because of the debuff that goes with it. Even if my Pidgeot gets hard countered, I can still debuff my opponent so that my next Pokemon can deal with it more easily. Overall, I just really like this Pokemon and the kind of impact it is having on the Great League. It's always nice to have a good variety of different Pokemon in the Go Battle League meta, as it makes the gameplay so much more interesting. Pidgeot's rise in relevance definitely does just that. What was once a forgettable trash Pokemon is now one you should fear. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Now, I would love to know your thoughts regarding this Pokemon. Is it something you plan to try out? Have you seen it in the Go Battle League? Let me know down below in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.